I am DM Zone. This is Gamers Oasis. Let's get into it. In this video, I'm going to talk about a very strong focus of the Blackmoor supplement book made by Dave Arneson that no one is talking about. It was scheduled to come out alongside with Greyhawk, which was made by Gary Gygax, one of the co-authors or the other co-author of Dungeons & Dragons, the original. They both were co-authors, but for whatever reason, Blackmoor had this really unspoken of thing, like then or since. There was such a huge aquatic creature focus that I don't know what to make of it. For example, I could easily break this out into aquatic creatures, aquatic intelligent races, aquatic flora, and aquatic magic items. That could be like a 4-part series. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sort of do an overview and then we'll move forward. And if I get 50 likes on this video, I'll consider making that as a 4-part mini series coming out in the future. Okay, so let's get into creatures. This list is so long, it's like 32 creatures long, that I'm going to talk about a few of them and I'm just going to put up like screenshots of what the creatures are and what they say as we're talking about them. So here's the complete list that I found. So I show merman, giant crab, giant octopus, giant squid, giant crocodile, giant toads, giant frogs, giant leeches, giant beavers, giant otters, an elasmosaurus, a mosasaurus, a plysaurus, a giant shark, a whale, giant eel, a lamprey, seahorse, Portuguese man of war, oddly enough, dolphins, aquatic elves, pungy ray, manta ray, giant sea spiders, weed eels, shawagan, floating eyes, going to butcher this name, Ixthia chittle maybe, or a lakath. And then we have the Morlock or Mokok. And then you have the poisonous corals, the mashers, the strangleweed, sea hags, Capiocineth, and the colinth. All right, so let's get into some of what these things are as these slides are going by and you get to see all these names I've butchered. So a great number of giant monsters make up this list. And if you watch my video that I just recently did about giant classifications and this type of stuff in original Dungeons & Dragons and how not everything is giant size, there is actually like a giant classification. And then there are things like Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is a dinosaur and a massive creature that could also be called giant. Well, there are giant dinosaurs or dinosaurs in this one here that are aquatic. Like the Elasmosaurus, maybe, or the Mosasaurus from Jurassic World, and the Plesiosaurus, like Nessie in the Scotland or Ireland, wherever it is. And certainly qualifying in this probably would be the giant shark and the giant crocodile, as those are pretty ancient too. Now there's some funny ones in there, like giant beaver kits, which is the baby giant beaver, can be tamed, and these beavers can actually be bartered with their, I guess, higher intelligence. It is understood that they would build dams for trinkets made of gold or sparkly things or tasty bark. And they are known to defend themselves and even be like an early warning system for like threats that might be in the area. Now that's kind of crazy, and that could be like its own video series right there, as I was saying earlier. Now there are 6 to 7 intelligent races depending on how you interpret an intelligent race. You have aquatic elves, which are fans of no one of the surface. You have shawagans, whose nickname is devilmen. The Ixthia chittle, I don't know. I can't pronounce that. That's Aztecan or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But what it says is that they are a mostly chaotic, faithful zealots that are basically flat blanket-like forms that resemble a manta ray. That being said, they can have both clerics and magic users among them. The Lakath, which is what I was trying to say earlier, are a race that is known for riding eels and are known to be nomadic, living in underwater castles within the oceans and are to be fairly civil. Sea hags, which are basically a form of dryad that have a face that kills you. If you look upon it, you have to literally make a save or die. Capocian, I don't know how, Capothith, something like that, are basically a type of gargoyles that have fins instead of wings and that live in the oceans. The colinth, I don't know, another one of these I can't really say very well, are basically a type of hobgoblin with water breathing instead of air breathing. So yeah, lots of crazy things. Now there is also a couple monstrous plants. There's the poisonous coral and the strangleweed. Both of these plants end up basically making rules for the game within the description. This was a thing that happened occasionally in original Dungeons and Dragons. They didn't have a specific format and layout for a rule, and then the description referenced the layout or where the rule is. You would find the rule inside the description and go from there. So with poisonous coral, if you fall into it or get cut by it somehow, like as a weapon or whatever, you have to make a save versus poison or be cured by a cleric within 12 hours or die. So crazy. With strangleweed, they are found in clusters of a D4. The rules seem clear to me. However, if they were to give an example with their rules, I think that would help a lot with the clarity, because the examples they give, the numbers are a little skewy, shall we say. Let me give you an example of how I see it. Okay, so for both the player and the weed, you roll 4d6 and you add 4. This is going to give you a fairly median dice. You're going to roll about the same, and the +4 will become important later. Maybe. I kind of feel like it negates itself because you give it to both sides. But let me go and explain a little bit more. Also, both the player and the weeds have a grace of 2 points. So plus or minus 2. Now you take this 4d6 plus 4 and you add it all together. The example they give is 12 and 10. Because the weed is only 2 higher than the player, the grace of 2 takes effect and nothing happens. In this second example, the weed rolls a 16 and the player rolls a 10. The difference is 6, but because the grace period is 2, it makes it 4, meaning the player suffers 4 points of damage. Now, the way I understand it from there is the next roll, the weed gets +4 and the player does not get the +4 because it's -4 because of the damage is taken. Therefore, it's going to be 4d6 median, and then the weed gets 4d6 plus 4. That makes the weed have a greater chance of doing more damage in future turns. Again, I'm not 100% sure what the +4 actually does in this whole thing. Maybe it makes some sense somewhere. Maybe it prevents you from reaching 0 so quickly. I don't know. What else happens? Okay, so if the player rolls higher than the weed by more than +2, so at 13 versus 10, for example, then the player escapes. If the players want to attack the weeds, they're considered to be AC 1 with 12 hit points. Each cluster gets to make an attack on a person or multiple on the same one each turn. I would assume that negative damage being a modifier would be for each extra one. So if you get 4 points and then the second one goes, they get +4, you don't get your +4 because you took 4 points of damage. And I assume that's how that works. Now the last area, the last video I would make in this series is talking about the revamps that were made to many magic items to give them sort of an aquatic theme. So you have a ring of movement, which is basically a ring of flying, but it swims. So all the benefits you get for flying, you now get for swimming. A clear water potion removes salt from the water for 10 feet. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this does. Maybe it works as some sort of barrier versus saltwater creatures, or provides clean drinking water for those who need it. Maybe it pushes things away that doesn't like that. I don't know what exactly it's supposed to do, but it's supposed to be, I guess, permanent. So that's interesting. There's the Cloak of the Manta Ray, which basically changes you into a manta ray, allowing you to fight, swim, move, breathe water like a manta ray. There's also a Necklace of Water Breathing, which allows you to have this rechargeable function, where it literally lasts for 2.5 days of water breathing, allowing many days underwater at a time. And then you need to spend time to recharge it before you can reuse it. I think this adds a difference to the game in the way it was played that was not seen ever basically in original Dungeons and Dragons since then. Then you have the Trident of Fish Control, which is basically Aquaman's trident. You have a net of snaring, which basically makes you a master snarer with a net. Then you have several different types of pearls, and they are equated to gem and gem values, allowing you to basically swap one out for the other, both for the use of like magic and probably some sort of economy below the surface and above the surface type of thing to give more depth into this. And again, you're going to see this kind of scroll by. The most interesting thing I found on the magic items in the second little part here, and it's the last one, and certainly not least, is the Helm of Underwater Vision. It allows the wearer to see 180 inches or 180, that's on the sand table, or 180 feet. Now, what I don't know is how far can you see underwater anyways? Now, it talks about the fact that major obstructions like plants and rocks block. I'm assuming that means that silt, that murky water is not blocked, that dark water is not blocked with this, and it allows you basically to see in black water around you, which would be really cool. But this is kind of that detail that was probably known at Gygax and Arneson's table about how far you can see in water that we don't know. And I think that this is something that if they would have put in would have been very good. But this is a very common thing that details they knew at their table didn't quite make it to the rules. So for being a book that was named after Dave Arneson's home campaign, I don't know why he has such a focus on aquatic creatures and animals and things that live there and all these intelligent races and what all this meant and why he revamped magic items for this. I find it very interesting, and it's something I kind of want to know more about. Anyways, guys, did I get this right? Did I get this wrong? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.